Dad cut me out of the family business. Came crawling back after brother failed. I'm Daniel, 33M, and I own a custom automotive performance shop in Tampa, Florida. It's the kind of garage where we don't just change oil and brakes. We tune engines, rebuild transmissions, upgrade suspensions, custom wrap exotics, and squeeze horsepower out of cars that most mechanics wouldn't even touch. It's loud, it's greasy, it's high-octane heaven, and it's mine. I built this place from the ground up. No investors, no trust fund. Just late nights, scraped knuckles, and a borderline unhealthy obsession with speed. I named the shop Torque and Honor because that's what it's all about, performance and principle. But this isn't some rags-to-riches tale. This is the story of how my own father, yes, the man who taught me how to change oil, completely disrespected my career, cut me out of the family legacy, and came crawling back after everything he built went up in flames. And trust me, I didn't go nuclear. I didn't even yell. I just waited, and when the time came, I hit him where it really hurt. Now let me take you back a bit. My dad, Anthony Reyes, ran Reyes Motors, a used car dealership on the other side of Tampa. He started it in the late 80s with 2 lemons and a leased lot. By the time I was in high school, he had a full-on showroom and service bay, rows of shiny sedans, and a slick reputation in the local Spanish community as a man who always honors his word. I worked there all through my teens, detailing cars, updating listings, dealing with paperwork, eventually even negotiating small deals. But even then, I knew I wasn't cut out for sales. I wanted torque specs, camshafts, and fuel maps, not haggling with tire kickers. Still, I respected him. I learned discipline, presentation, and what it means to work for your name. After college, automotive tech school, I told him I wanted to open my own shop. He laughed. Actually laughed. So you're going to be a grease monkey? You've got a business brain, and you want to burn it under a car lift? I want to build something that's mine, I told him. Something real. You don't build a future with a wrench, Daniel. You build it with contracts and capital. I remember those words like they were engraved on a piston head. Still, I opened Torque and Honor in a rented garage bay behind a pawn shop. For 2 years I ate instant noodles and worked 12-hour days, 6 days a week. I tuned street cars for underground racers, restored beat-up trucks for proud veterans, and took every walk-in with a smile, even when it meant being elbow-deep in someone's leaking differential at 10 p.m. Eventually, word got around. We did honest work, charged fair prices, and delivered results. 1 client turned into 5. 5 turned into 50. 3 years in, I had employees. 5 years in, we had to move to a bigger space. I hired 2 ASE-certified techs and a receptionist, and we had a 6-week waiting list. I was finally living the dream. But with success came distance. My dad never visited my shop, not once. If we bumped into each other at family events, he'd still introduce me as Daniel, my older son. He works with cars, never owns a shop, never runs a business. I didn't need his validation. Or at least, that's what I told myself. Then came the storm, literally. Florida weather doesn't play. One year, back-to-back hurricanes hit us hard. My dad's dealership flooded, inventory damaged, insurance disputes up the wazoo. One night, I got a call. Daniel, he said, sounding tired. I need help. Financial. How much? He paused. 80,000. That wasn't chump change. It was nearly everything I had in my emergency fund. But this was my father, the man who taught me to drive stick, who showed me how to gap spark plugs by eye. So I wired him the full amount. No contract. No terms. Just, family sticks together. He said he'd pay me back within the year. I didn't push it. I kept working, growing, reinvesting in my shop. Things were good. I even got a feature in a local magazine, Top 10 Custom Auto Shops in Tampa Bay. Clients started flying in from out of state for high-end engine work. Then came Easter. My parents always hosted holiday dinners. Big events. Lechon on the grill, cousins from Miami, everyone dressed like they were going to church. That year, I remember showing up in my shop clothes because I'd just finished dyno tuning a customer's Subaru WRX for a track day. My hands still smelled like high octane. Everyone was gathered in the backyard. Drinks were flowing. My dad was wearing a pressed linen shirt and those hideous loafers he thinks scream money. My younger brother, Luca, was next to him, holding a cocktail and grinning like he was the guest of honor. Then it happened. My dad clinked his glass with a spoon. Everyone, I have an announcement. I thought maybe he was retiring. Finally handing the reins over. I looked at him, then at Luca. He cleared his throat. After much thought and planning, I've officially updated the estate plan. When I step down, Reyes Motors, the house, the assets, they'll go to Luca. He's earned it. I blinked. Thought maybe I misheard. Wait, I said, setting down my plate. What about me? He looked at me with that same condescending smile. You chose your own path, Mijo. You run your little repair shop. That's your business. Little repair shop? I said. I loaned you 80 grand last year. That was appreciated, he said. But you made it clear you're not part of Reyes Motors anymore. You said family sticks together. My mom stepped forward. Daniel, please don't make a scene. I turned to Luca. You even know how to balance an expense sheet? He sipped his drink. Don't need to. I hire people. Wow, I muttered. So this is what loyalty gets me. It's business, my father said coldly. Nothing personal. No. I said, picking up my drink. It's betrayal. Just like everything else in this family. I looked around. My cousins stared at their shoes. My uncle checked his phone. No one stood up. No one said a word. Except my mother. She whispered, "Daniel, please." I walked out. Didn't look back. That was the last time I set foot in their house. I didn't go on a rant. I didn't air my dirty laundry on Facebook or trash my dad in a Google review. I just went back to work. I poured myself into my business. I bought a new dyno, hired another technician, and started offering race prep services for weekend warriors. And guess what? We blew up. By the end of the year, we were doing better than ever. But the Reyes Motors family legacy? That was a different story. I started hearing things. The dealership was struggling. Cars were sitting on the lot for months. Inventory was mismanaged. Word spread that they sold a car with a rolled-back odometer, and a client filed a complaint with the state. Employees were quitting. And Luca? He was posting selfies in Miami clubs while the business tanked. Still, I stayed out of it. It had been 8 months since that Easter dinner. 8 months since I walked away from my family without looking back. 8 months of radio silence from my dad. Not even a call, a text, or a forwarded meme. It was like I had died to him the moment I stood up from that dinner table. It took 2.5 years for Luca to sink Reyes Motors. The first year, he rode the momentum my dad had built. He dressed the part, tailored suits, flashy watches, and a leased BMW M8 he claimed was a business expense. He installed leather chairs in the waiting lounge, added a fancy espresso machine, and paid for a slick rebranding campaign that cost them $20,000. Apparently, Luca remodeled the front lobby, replaced the classic, old-school charm of the place with some sterile, soulless luxury showroom aesthetic, and started spending more time at networking dinners than in the garage. He stopped shaking customers' hands. The man couldn't tell a timing belt from a serpentine one, but he was making big plays, buying too much inventory, investing in overpriced advertising, even taking out a small loan to expand operations. It didn't take long for things to unravel. I'd hear whispers from old clients who came to my new shop, complaining about shoddy work, botched paperwork, or delays in getting their cars back. Some of the guys I used to work with had quit already. Others were just biding their time. I stayed out of it. I had my own place now. My new garage, Reyes Performance and Customs. Yeah, I kept the Reyes name just to twist the knife. Was doing better than I could have hoped. I had more customers than Bays. People lined up for honest work and fair prices. I had respect, stability, and peace. But I won't lie. Part of me kept hoping for a call. Not for revenge. Just closure. That call came one summer morning, about 2 years later. I was finishing up a job on a Mustang GT when my receptionist poked her head in and said, your dad's in the lobby." I thought she was joking. I hadn't seen or heard from him in over 2 years. He hadn't even reached out when I opened my second location. But sure enough, when I stepped out from the shop bay, there he was. He looked smaller. Not physically, but just worn down. He had bags under his eyes, thinner hair, and he was dressed like someone who hadn't had a good night's sleep in a long time. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. I took him into the office. He didn't sit down right away. Just sort of hovered awkwardly until I finally gestured to the chair. He sat, sighed, and started with, "I made a mistake." I didn't say anything. I gave everything to Luca. I thought he was going to carry the torch. And I finally said, arms crossed. He tanked it, ran the dealership into the ground, mismanaged everything, got in over his head with some sketchy import deals. He's gone now. Left town, took the last of the company funds, and vanished. I let out a short, dry laugh. Well, that's the son you chose. I thought I was doing what was right. Building a legacy, keeping the name going through the next generation. You picked image over integrity, I said flatly. I gave you years of loyalty. I loaned you $80,000. And you tossed me out like a used tire because I wasn't shiny enough. His eyes dropped to the floor. You were right. About everything. I know. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folder. Papers, bank statements, foreclosure notices, tax documents. "We're in trouble," he said. "The bank is after the house. We're behind on everything. Mom's sick too. Hospital visits, meds, tests, it's all piling up." I stared at the folder, but didn't touch it. "I need help," he continued. "I came to ask you, man to man." "How much?" I asked, already knowing I'd regret hearing the answer. "About $120,000 to clear the worst of it. If not, we lose the house." I leaned back slowly, processing. "You know," I said, "I begged you to listen. I didn't want a handout, I wanted respect. A chance. And instead, you humiliated me. Not just in private, but in front of our entire family. You made me the black sheep." "I know," he said again. "I was wrong. And now you come crawling back because the golden boy bolted the second it got tough. You didn't just choose the wrong son. You betrayed the one who never left." His voice cracked. "This isn't about choosing anymore. It's about survival. I'm not asking for the business. Just help." "No," I said quietly. "You're asking for a bailout. And you don't get to burn a bridge and then beg me to rebuild it. You'd really let your own parents lose everything? You let your son lose everything. You took his future and sold it to a fraud." He sat in silence for a long moment, and then he said something that made my blood boil. "You're just doing this for revenge." I stood up. "No, I'm doing this because I finally have boundaries. And because I don't owe anything to people who didn't see my worth until they were desperate. He stood too, folder in hand, face pale. I guess I had this coming, he muttered. Yeah, I said, opening the door for him. You did. He paused in the doorway. Your mom's sick. She could use you. She could have spoken up when it mattered, I replied. He left without another word. A week later, I filed a civil suit against my father to recover the $80,000 I had loaned him years ago. I had the receipts, bank records, texts, even a few old voicemails where he referred to it as a temporary loan. He tried to fight it at first, said it was a gift. But when we went to court, he looked completely defeated. He barely even spoke. Luca didn't show up, no surprise there. The judge ruled in my favor. $80,000 plus interest and legal fees. Altogether, $248,000. They had to sell the house. The remnants of Reyes Motors were auctioned off to pay the debt. My parents moved into a small rental. My mother never reached out. Until she did. About 6 months later, I got a message from an unknown number. Daniel, your father had a stroke. He's in the hospital. It's bad. He's been asking for you. Please come. I stared at the screen for a long time. There was a part of me, some soft, stupid piece, that almost got up and went. Not for him. For me. For closure. But then I remembered his face when he called me just a grease monkey. I remembered how he poured champagne for Luca at that dinner while I sat at the far end of the table, silent and invisible. I remembered how he took everything I gave and spat on me when I asked for a seat at the table I helped build. I replied simply, ask Luca. She didn't respond. And I didn't go. Instead, I walked back into my garage, put my gloves on, and got back to work. Because this garage, these people, this life, I built it. With grit and grease and tenacity. And no one can take it from me now. They thought I was just a mechanic. Turns out, I'm the engine that kept the whole damn family running. And now, I run without them. It was a slow Thursday morning. The sun was out, the lifts were full, and I was under a 1970 Chevelle with one of my junior mechanics, walking him through a tricky exhaust reroute. We were halfway through the job when I heard the screeching sound of tires in the parking lot. I knew that sound. A sudden stop, heavy foot on the brake, tires chirping. It wasn't a customer. It was emotion. A moment later, the shop door slammed open with a loud clang against the wall. And there she was, my mother. I hadn't seen her in almost 3 years. She looked the same and somehow older. Her makeup was flawless as always, but her eyes were red and glassy. And from the moment I saw her step in, I knew. This wasn't a visit. This was a storm. Daniel, she called out, eyes locked on me. We need to talk. Now. My tech froze. The entire shop quieted like someone had just pulled the emergency brake on life. I stood up slowly, wiping the grease from my hands, heart pounding but face calm. Not here, I said. We'll talk in my office. No, she shouted. We're going to talk right here, with everyone watching, because I'm done with the secrets and the silence. Everyone stared. I motioned for my guys to take 5 and led her to a quieter corner of the shop. She was fuming. You're going to let your father die with hate in your heart, she snapped. Is that what this is about? I asked, arms crossed. You showing up here to guilt trip me? In front of my crew? I begged you to come, she hissed. He's been asking for you every single day since the stroke. He's in a wheelchair, Daniel. Do you know what that's like for a man like him? Yeah, I said flatly. Losing the power he used to dominate others? Sounds about right. Her hand flew up so fast, I thought she was going to slap me. But she stopped just short. I raised you better than this, she whispered, shaking with rage. No, you raised me to keep quiet. To not challenge my father. To be the good son, even when I was being walked on. And when he screwed me over, you looked the other way. Her face twisted. You think this is all black and white. He built that business from nothing. So did I shot back. And he stole my share and handed it to a fraud. And you just let it happen. You didn't stand up for me once. I couldn't, she said, choking up now. He was so sure, so proud of Luca. He thought he was protecting the business. And when he kicked me out, I asked. When he said I wasn't worthy of the family name, what was he protecting then? She looked away, silent. You only came now, I said, my voice lowering. Because you lost everything. Not because you love me. Because you need me. She stepped closer, voice trembling. We're living in a 2-bedroom rental, Daniel. I'm caring for your father full time. I have no help. No savings. You're out here living your dream, and we're drowning. And you think that's my fault? I asked, anger flaring. I think, she said slowly, that you've forgotten what family means. That hit harder than I expected. I stared at her, stunned. Then I walked over to my workbench, grabbed something from the top drawer, and came back. It was the original receipt, the $80,000 loan I gave my father years ago, the one that he never paid back, the one that led me to sue him. Family means not being used, I said. Family means trust. And this was the moment you both chose Luca over me. Her eyes welled with tears. You think we haven't paid for it? Every day? You think I don't lie awake at night knowing I didn't fight harder for you? I don't care what you feel now, I replied. Where were you then? She said nothing. But then she walked deeper into the shop, right in front of everyone, and raised her voice again. You all think he's a hero, right? She said loudly, gesturing at me. Your big boss, self-made, hard-working, noble. But what you don't know is he's abandoned his own parents. Left his father to rot in a bed while he polishes bumpers. My blood went cold. Get out, I said. You're heartless, she shouted. You've let success poison you. You've become the very thing you hated. The guys were all silent. No one moved. I could feel eyes darting between us. You want to air our dirty laundry here? I asked. Fine. You want to talk about abandonment? Let's talk. My father stole from me. You both gaslit me. And when I made something of myself, you showed up to take, not apologize. We didn't have a choice, she whispered. Everyone has a choice, I said. You just made the wrong one. She stepped forward again. Please just visit him. Once. He doesn't have much time. I already said goodbye, I replied. The day you both made me the outsider in my own family. She looked like someone had punched her in the gut. The fire in her eyes died. Her shoulders slumped. I hope one day you forgive us, she whispered. I already did, I said. That's why I don't let it control me anymore. She nodded slowly, turned, and walked out of the shop. No tires screeching this time. Just silence. After she left, one of my senior techs walked up. You good, boss? Yeah, I nodded, voice quiet. Let's get back to work. But I wasn't good. Not really. Because when your own mother shows up to weaponize your guilt, it leaves a scar deeper than any financial loss. But I held my ground. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I'd already been broken once. And I wasn't going to let anyone, even blood, break me again.